Good
Hey,
evening.
y'all. Welcome to
Hey,
our first Maritime Area Security Talk, or MaST, Captain's MaST, Admiral's MaST. You're going to be hurting because you're going to MaST. So, with us tonight, we have a good group of guys that I know and will be, our co hosts to take us through all things maritime security, just so that you get a good feeling of what we are not. We are not talking on behalf of our employers. We are not representing them in any way. And these are our own personal opinions, personal thoughts. And again, like I said, no way reflect our current, past, present, future, any employer that we may ever have. They're not represented. Um, Please note this is probably PG-13, so there may be a few cuss words dropped in. We'll try to do our best to keep this a level professional, but for us, this is like how we are when we get together at a conference and at the bar after the conference. We're like, hey man, what do you think about that one show or that one presentation? So, but since we haven't been to a conference in like forever, we're just gonna have to talk about work. So, so I'm gonna turn it over to the guy to my right. That looks like Julio. Say, hey Julio, tell us
hey.
hi and a little bit about your background. What makes you so special?
Oh, well, I don't know about special though.
Okay, Marco, you're next.
That's quick.
So, Julio here, in a little bit over 20 years working in the physical security world. Most of that time was spent in the ports, down in the Caribbean, and then also in the Texas and Louisiana area. And I've been dabbling with cybersecurity for about Marco, about 3-4 years now, almost.
Solid. Yeah, solid.
So I'm no cybersecurity expert. I can talk,
There you
policy, but I'm no techie. But on the physical security side of the house, physical security, that's a different story. But believer on physical security and cybersecurity are equal to each other, and there has to be a convergence in there somewhere. So
Yep, and
Anyways.
whiskey helps, right?
it does.
There we go.
Hey, I like that
Cheers.
cup. That's nice.
Hey Marco, what
Hey,
are you up
Chris.
to? What do we know about you? What can we know about
Oh
you?
my gosh.
Customers that
Now
all
let's
our
see.
two fans right now want to know about you.
I keep asking all my kids to like this channel. So, I'm an automation professional. I started out in instrumentation automation. Started out on the vendor side. I've been doing cybersecurity probably for it's going on 18 years now from the control system side. I've been doing OT before it was even coined OT from an industrial control system standpoint. But yeah, man, I've been working with Julio here the last few years and just supporting the area and supporting the whole maritime strategy for at least the last 10, but really focusing here the last 3 years in our area and the outer continental shelf. But man, I like talking with you guys and
Cool.
hanging out and what have you. So
What's in your background there? Looks like a bunch of spaceships going by. What's all that blue lights back there?
Yeah, no, that's probably the police coming after me. No, that's I'm actually at a hotel that has got looks like pool. The pool is behind me. I think there's cars that go this way that back and forth. So, but yeah, very cool. Thanks for having me on.
No, hey, we're all here together. It's great. Hey, Mike.
What's
I see a Marine Corps hat back there, so there's obviously something in your background there.
Captain America.
Where's the crayons?
I ate the crayons earlier.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No, you did a good job cleaning your teeth.
Appreciate you.
Brutal.
Yeah. So, as a matter of fact, interestingly enough, in 5 days, I would have been able to retire from the Marine Corps.
Oh,
yeah. It's
kind of
a. It was I realized that earlier today. I was like, wow, 20 years since I joined. But no, I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. I did one tour in Iraq. I got out and ended up in maritime. been with I've done port operations, I've done cruise terminal management, and then obviously primarily security for just about 12 years now. So
Cool.
obviously my security background is different than y'all's. I am a physical security guy, so that's why I had to get this to help. That way I can at least understand some of y'all's language.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say different, because in our world we ask questions and shoot later. In your world, you shoot first and then you wonder, oh, was that it?
No, hey, Marine Corps. Remember, not Army.
No.
I don't wonder. Marine Corps is one shot, one kill, baby.
Oh, okay.
So Mike's guards, gates, guns, dogs, whatever, dynamite, whatever.
There you go. Physical security is my world.
Sweet.
Nice. Hey, Nick.
Yep.
Heard you what's going on, man? Heard you just got back from a movie.
I did. Yeah. So I'm a little bit different time zone than you guys. Used to met pretty much everybody when I was down in Louisiana. My previous job, been a active duty coastie for 14 years. Went out actually and went out and got my law degree at LSU, and then realized that as I was finishing up law school, that being a lawyer, junior attorney at 38, 39 years old would be worse than going back to being an ensign all over again. So started looking for other positions, and ended up coming back to government work. So I've been back working for the government for about the past 3 years, and that's where I first met one of the first people I was told to talk to was Marco, because my previous world of work was Outer Continental Shelf Security. And so Marco, Julio and I met each other at some training, and then Marco introduced me to you and Mike there, Chris. So
Nice.
yeah, excited.
Marco's
to get
the
this
center.
going.
He's the center. He's of this whole
The glue.
thing. So it's all his
I'm the
fault.
glue. I'm the glue. You know how much
Linchpin.
glue it takes
He's
to
the
hold you
reason
guys
me,
together?
Julio, and Mike are
Oh
drinking.
God.
Yeah.
But this is a heck of a team here. I love it.
It is.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
And that's why, every time we get together in some way or form, we talk and we talk and we talk. And that's why we're like, hey, it's maybe we need to share our knowledge and information. One of the things that I did after I got out of the Navy was I went and I never even told anybody about myself. So hi, I'm Chris.
Yeah.
I'm here because the ninjas are busy.
There you
And but I've been doing cybersecurity for a lot. Way back when it was called information assurance, and it was more of a paperwork drill back then. But so I've been doing it, and I got into OT security after my 20 years in the Navy, and doing some of the cool stuff there. And then I was like, well, let's get out and go into this civil arena, and worked for a handful of companies in the private sector, and learned a lot, and eventually worked my way up to leading teams, and I'm on my third team that I'm leading now, and loving the industry. Now all in, so it's all kind of cool. And but yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. I'm not as near as exciting as Marco. So
Come on, guys. Y'all give me way too much credit.
Oh, look at he's turning. He's
Yeah,
blushing.
you guys are the ones that parachute out of helicopters. I'm just the guy that bring in to sweep up the floors.
So
Yeah.
So one of the things we talk about, one of the things I used to do is we used to be a firefighter, right? And one of the things we used to do in the fire station is when we didn't have a call, we'd be sitting around the engine bay talking about all the problems of the world and how we could fix everything. Well, that's kind of how like the five of us are. We get together, we talk about all the problems with physical and cybersecurity in the maritime industry. And boy, if this is a perfect world, we'd have all the solutions. But but this is our chance to share our thoughts, and maybe somebody will actually listen. Who knows? But the fun part is that it hopefully it'd be educational for you all, and then we all be able to sit there and just keep on going and having a good time with this. So, one of the things that, has been a lot going on lately is, a lot of legislation going on up in DC, right? And it's focused on reporting. well, I mean, guys, I mean, in my opinion, reporting does not necessarily mean it's going to fix cybersecurity.
Not at all.
I mean, and just it boggles me. I mean, we try to report and we do good things when we do report, but reporting is usually after the fact, and sometimes it's reporting things that happen to others in another industry already. So what are we reporting? I mean, what's the benefit?
I mean, in my opinion, like we've already had reporting for many, many, many years, especially the physical side. It hasn't fixed anything. They're still struggling with reporting and pushing that information back out. So you would think that after let's see at least 15 years of like MTSA type reporting, the whole required reporting piece for maritime at least, you'd think after 15 years they'd have more of their stuff together, if you will. So I guess my concern with it is that it's still like a learning process for everybody. You know what I mean? So it's definitely not going to fix anything, but at the same time, more data, more collection of data, you can learn more trends and things like that. So I guess for me at least, I'm just kind of waiting to see.
Well, and I think that's reporting is the first step, right? But I think what's valuable is whatever is going to be what's next after the reporting, right?
Well,
especially in the cyber world where things are one thing now and here in 5 minutes or in a couple hours,
30 seconds,
right? Or 30 seconds, right? It could be completely different. So the reporting is good, but I think what's the other side, right? So industry is used to on the physical side to report things. Now, what ends up happening, and a lot of it, for good reasons, right? You get a report of suspicious activity or an incident. You want to investigate it. You don't want to tip your hand, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However, with the cyber world, everything moves so fast that if we report something, and then whoever it is, local government, state government, federal government, whoever it is, if they're going to sit on it for 3 months or 4 months or however long an investigation can take, because sometimes those things can take years before somebody feels comfortable with, okay, now I've done my investigation. We're going to prosecute this guy's criminally. And then if we're going to wait until all that's done, and it's been 2 years since we figure it out to be able to tell everybody else, hey, here's what happened, then there's really is there really a gain? There's no real gain in there, right?
No, there isn't. I mean, that's the problem, I think, is that, we're getting that info and it's useless.
We push info out as industry, but get virtually nothing back.
Ooh, reciprocal, right? We're here to help. Tell us what's going on, and hopefully it's reciprocal. I know that's something that even when I was on the asset owner side, that many years ago, that was something that it just seemed like it was just one way. It's like, hey, we're sharing some of the things that are happening at our facilities, but we're not hearing about the other facilities. I mean, are they perfect? They're like, well, no, that's classified, or we can't share what really happened. It's like, well, that's really not collaboration. I know we've gotten a long way within, some of the organizations and the groups here within the last 5-7 years, but you're spot on with that. And the other thing too, going back to reporting, the benefit of reporting is with the physical side of it. Mike, I know, when you see something, you see a suspicious vehicle or person or people trying to get into the plant or to the gates of some location, and they're using fake IDs and stuff like that. That stuff you can physically see and report on. With cyber, do you report because a printer started just pushing out paper? Or do you report because the computer rebooted in the control room and maybe it was just like a power supply? Was it China? Yeah. No, it was the power supply. It was a hardware failure. Did we report it? So now you got 10,000 reports coming in of things that happen in a control system or to an IT enterprise system, and none of it maybe even matters.
Yeah.
And so
I mean,
what is the level of what do you report, and how beneficial is it? And I think that's goes back to the question that we're talking about, but reciprocal is a big piece.
So doesn't it say now for cyber, report suspicious? I mean, what's suspicious to you?
Yeah, exactly. What's that threshold?
You know, that goes that the printer comment that Marco just made. Yeah, that's kind of suspicious, but you know, somebody's printed out an Excel spreadsheet and there was only one cell per page, you know, and they got 15 million cells. It's going to print out 15 million.
Or
pages.
somebody printed it to the wrong printer in the building or into a different location within the organization, and that's suspicious. Don't know where it came from.
Well, and I mean,
so yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, so going back to how this all started, and Mike, you threw MTSA out there. So MTSA is a perfect example, right? That how many times did we track down people that were taking pictures of regulated facilities? And it turned out that some of these facilities are in some pretty areas, and they were just out there taking pictures of scenery, or they really liked a bird that was up on the fence, or whatever it may be. So, so there's going to be that trade-off, I think, in the beginning of this, and we're probably, I think there's got to be that balance. It's going to have to get figured out, and I think that's kind of where we're headed to now. I think everybody can kind of agree that maybe a little bit more information would be good. But again, if we're not solving those problems that we've had ever since we were tracking down people that were taking photographs of fence lines just because they saw a pretty flower or whatever, then, we haven't learned those lessons of how to, kind of sort those things out and provide some feedback about what exactly those people were doing to the people that were interested in it, then we're gonna kind of be chasing our tail again. And do we even have the manpower in place to do that? On the government side, that's a concern that I have right now, because we've got to figure out okay, not only how much information are we going to take in, but who's going to take it, who's going to run with it, and who's going to be in charge of pushing it back out. But it's a challenge, but I see a lot of it is is going to have to come from communities themselves and being able to build things up. And that was one of the things that I always experienced in the Outer Continental Shelf. And working in that community with you guys down there, Marco, is that I think everybody recognized, and we all know that the spill in 2010, the Macondo spill, was not cyber related, but it was an incident that happened to one, and it impacted everybody, right? And I think that mindset has continued on when it comes to cybersecurity in the Outer Continental Shelf, because they recognize that if this happens to one of us, it's probably going to happen to a lot of us, and it's going to be bad, and we're all going to pay the price for it. So I think the more communities, maritime communities, whether it's ports, amongst the local ports, or if it's just the maritime community itself, recognizing that, they've got to tighten it up, and because an attack to one can impact all. I think that's going to be one of the key messages that's going to be the hardest to get across. But I think there's some smaller communities that are getting it. I think you're seeing that in some of the places out there. So I'm looking forward to seeing that get built out more. But absolutely,
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Nick. I guess the thing is that there are benefits of reporting as long as it's qualitative with cyber. In the control system space up to, even the perimeter of the enterprise side, is that I think it's important, but I guess the other parts of it too, going back to some of the things that Mike was saying is having that ability to feed things up, but also get some level of sharing back is something that our community definitely needs. And I know that there are groups that we're all kind of a part of that help really to get that information out. And it's been super helpful, because you could still be pushing out the actual chain, the correct chain, but still having our communications within our own other MTS sites and acquaintances, and be able to communicate, hey, this is what we're seeing. These are some of the other things. And another thing to your point, regarding MTS in general, is that we have to look to see in our own business line, from supply chain to what is a bad day for us, what is a bad day for our particular maritime side, what are our high consequence events, and we have to figure those and actually identify them, and understand what those are, and start to see what kind of barriers and mechanisms we have in place aside from the reporting, and be able to really document that out. Because especially in MTS, there's so many different pieces of the supply chain with long lead, long level type domino effect impacts from the supply chain side of it. That, I mean, it's very important. So,
yeah. Well, you get into, sorry, Leo, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say with, I've been listening to you guys and I'm thinking is the other definition that needs to happen. And there is, your OT side and your IT side, right? So in the physical security world, when somebody's going after, let's say, maritime, a port or a specific facility or specific sector, right? For, you name it, spying, you can name it corporate espionage, whatever it is, those are targeted to a specific company or specific sector. But when it comes to cyber, and we're talking in the IT side, I mean, you're talking about the same Outlook email that you use in a ship, that you use in a maritime port, you also use in a school district, you also use in finance, you also use everywhere else. So how is that cross sector? Because in the OT you can make a difference, right? Oh, there's an OT problem. Well, the school system probably is not going to have the same OT system than a petrochemical facility has, right? So you can make some segregations in there. But when you're talking about IT, I mean, that, right, when you put out a ransomware out there, when you put out a virus or a phishing email, I mean, it goes after everybody. How does that look like, right? Who is looking at that?
The thing is, Julio, is that you got a lot of companies that are just flat networks, right?
Right.
So they have historians and they have control PCs on the same network that the secretary for the CEO is working on. And, she gets the ransomware, and so does that, control PC or that historian.
Right.
And that's where I think, we gotta, we have to start educating, and I don't know how that will work. I mean, we got companies all sizes, right, that are under MTSA that need to be doing the cyber thing and everything else, but when they build a network, they go to Best Buy, they buy whatever was on sale for the Christmas sale, and they plug it in, don't even change the password, and then they connect in, whatever grain out or whatever else, conveyor belt is feeding stuff out to a ship that's sitting, at the end of their dock, type of thing. I mean, it's kind of simplistic, but that's exactly what happens with these small organizations. How do we go about educating and these people about the need for cybersecurity?
You mean I can buy a router in Best Buy and I have to change the password? I thought it was just admin.
Well, the other thing, right, in regards to the the topic of reporting is that, especially coming from the asset owner side from the chem industry many years ago, is that when you start reporting incidents, those reports can actually start building a case for regulatory or added regulatory.
See,
and so
that's exactly what I was going to mention earlier, Marco. Thank you.
Well, so I was going to lead into that and let you take over that discussion because we've seen this. We've seen it. It's like, well, let's help build a case to where we can add more layers of regulatory burden onto an asset owner. And it's like, even though it's for the better good, it's also for, hey, let's hold your feet to the fire. And it's still, I mean, these are just some things that we have to look from a devil's advocate side and standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a double-edged sword. Actually, I don't know. I guess in my opinion, probably more like a triple-edged sword, because I mean, you get to the point to where obviously everybody wants to do the right thing, right? We want to report. We want to be able to get that information to those that can do something with it and all that good stuff, right? And we have the hope that those agencies that we report to will analyze and do their thing and hopefully give us some feedback on it. But at the same time, like you said, there's always the potential that it could lead to more regulatory burden. But there's also, and that piece is, the DC level, like implementing new regulations and stuff. But even beyond that, if you report something, even if you follow your plan and things like that, there's always that potential for somebody to come back at you and say, well, we're going to issue you a fine, or NOV or 835 or something like that. And all that does is discourage reporting. It's happened in our area for several years. I mean, yeah, like, yes, it's important that we report, and it's required that we report, but there are still a lot of those, not one of them, by the way. There's still a lot of those that do not want to report anything that comes up because they're afraid of the potential repercussions that they may have to face. They're afraid that, you know, their regulating body, you know, whether it be Coast Guard or whomever, will come in and hammer them, or, you know, because they reported this incident that occurred. You know,
Well,
I mean, it's tough.
And it's interesting you bring that up because, you know, let's talk about, you know, ex-federal organization, right? They're used to dealing with physical security. They're used to, okay, there's a hole in the fence. You, Mike, or whoever your contractor is, goes out there and say, oh, well, yeah, there is a hole in the fence. Yeah, we got to report this. But then when you talk cyber, it's like, well, we got something funky here. Well, is it a local problem? Is it a server failure? Was it an update was done wrong? I mean, it's not as simple as walking over to the fence and say, oh, yeah, obviously somebody cut that through. Right?
Yeah, you might not even know for months.
Right. So you might not know for, you know, 2-3 weeks, right? Depending on how much staff you have, depending on what your capabilities are locally. Yeah. But, you know, you might have people that say, well, you sat on this thing for 2 months and you didn't do anything. So now we're going to fine you for it. It's like, well, wait a second, time out. It took the federal government so let's say, you know, the perfect example is SolarWinds, right? A big event. Everybody knows about it. And now they're saying, well, that thing was there for 9 months, 10 months.
Oh yeah.
And it took us this long to figure out that this was a problem. So is that timely reporting?
Yeah, I mean,
the word timely is relative, right?
Yes,
it sure is.
The average recognition of that an organization has had a cyber attack is 44 days. 44 days, right? Mm-hmm. That's the average. You know, some go as long as 9 months. You know, and just like you're saying with SolarWinds, 9-10 months before somebody said something.
You know, guys, whenever you go and you take your car into a mechanic, you know, and they come out and they say, hey, you got to change your plugs. You need to do all this. You do all that. You look into the parking lot and the mechanic's car is in worse off shape than your own. You know, I think about that from the whole SolarWinds and the government standpoint, saying you guys got to do this from a security directive, and you have to do this, and this. And you're
how
like,
much follow all rules?
Well, look at the parking lot. You guys could need to go look at your stuff before you tell me how to do my stuff.
Right.
Well, that's because, you know, he's charging you, you know, basic rate, you know, and he's barely making any money on it, so he can't afford a decent car.
But a red rag in the gas tank, you know, and bang the wire holding stuff together.
What do you want? You want him to take your gas cap?
No, but
put the red rag in
my
yours?
point. Maybe that's where it came from originally. Maybe it was my red rag to start.
Hey, there you go. You got a part off of his car. You gave
missing a rag
there, shirt off his back.
Well, here's the challenge of it. Yeah, here's one of the challenges I see of it too. So I mean, and we're talking about all after incident. I mean, eventually we've got to get to the point of, you know, before incident. How far can we get before the incident? The left of boom discussions, right? This is all right of boom discussions. But the other thing you're just talking about that makes me think is, you know, with anything happening in the physical realm, if whatever government agency, whether it's law enforcement, federal, whatever, you can send one of your lowest qualified people out there, because all you want to do is have somebody on scene to keep eyes on it and make a phone call back to whatever the central command is to say, this is what they're doing right now. This is what, you know, it looks like. So how do we do that from the cyber perspective, right? We can't send our lowest trained people to go sit around in a server room and know what exactly is going on and what people are doing, right? So
point,
we've got to, you know, Yeah, we've got to investigate. We've got to invest training on that side. It's no longer that we can just send the person that just came out of boot camp or the person that just came out of the training academy. Hey, just go sit down there for a while. We'll let you know. We'll send a relief here in about 8 hours. 10
So that's
hours.
why we have so many issues on the physical side. Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Noted.
Well,
Yeah.
but-
Inside, it's. But it's across the.
Careful, we went to law
somebody,
school.
Yeah. Exactly. You think about somebody, a traffic star, a traffic accident. Same thing. I mean, you're not, your detectives, everybody else. They're not the ones that are sitting around for the entire time making sure that everybody stays away from it. It's some of the, some of the rookies. It's some of the beginners. It's the same thing. But how do we do that on the cyber side? That I don't think we can do that anymore, right? I mean,
Well,
I don't think anybody's going to welcome that, are they?
It's a highly specialized field.
I think you're walking into a whole separate topic here, which is education and training and capability and skill, right?
Yeah.
So right now you have private companies, right? You have private industry, and private industry is recruiting the best and the brightest that they can find.
Very much so.
Then you have the government trying to do the same thing with, I don't know, an eighth of the budget, maybe, for, when we compare it to some companies. So, what kind of quality you're going to get, what kind of training you're going to have. And I tell you from my experience, and this is one of those experiences that I've had where in the cyber world where, hey, we have this cyber incident. We need to address this. And I'm not a cyber guy, right? I can't talk ones and zeros, but I know.
But you slept at Holiday Inn, right?
Right.
I did actually do that before I spoke to the OCS class just recently. Yeah.
But
I almost used that line.
Right. I can tell it's important, right? I can tell, all right, this is important. Like if this thing goes south, this is going to be some big consequences. So then I'm talking to the techies, right? I finally worked through the, all the channels of the, my company, and
did you bring one of these with you?
I did not.
He has it on his phone. It's not his eyes. It just looks like he's texting.
He's got the
but
app.
I'm talking to the guy, and this person I'm talking to, he's the senior watch officer, whatever, senior techie guy that's on duty that day. And I said, well, hey, I need to know, what are we going to do next? What steps are we taking? What are we going to do? I got to get back with the, with the customer. And this guy goes, well, I don't know. That's above my pay grade. And I'm like, well, wait a second. You just told me that your title is you're the senior analyst. When you say senior analyst in the physical world, right? You say, well, I'm the senior manager of this. Well, that means that you have some decision-making power. But I came to realize extremely quickly, that's not the case in cybersecurity. I think it's like in the Coast Guard, you got the lead seaman. Yeah, you're the lead seaman because you've been sitting on that boat for 5 years and you haven't promoted. So therefore, you're the senior guy, So, there's a challenge in the skill set. There's a challenge in the cybersecurity I see, and I'm no expert, but I see as the leadership aspect of it and the confidence to say, okay, yeah, we need to make this. I need to make this decision, or somebody needs to give me the authority to be able to say, yeah, this is important.
So Julio, I could go with you on that, and it's not only just within maritime though. I've seen it across multiple industries vectors, and it's, I talk with CISOs from all the different industries and stuff like that. It's all a common problem where organizations don't see cyber as a strategy to help them get ahead.
Well, it's not a revenue source. It's not like operations.
It's a bill that they have to pay.
It's strictly overhead.
And that's the problem and until they get to the point where an organization can see that cyber security, and not just cyber compliance, but cyber security, actually having a secure environment is, a strategy that they can take. That this is not gonna happen. I mean, so
just let them get hit one time. They'll figure it out then.
That didn't work either. We got lucky. We do the Matrix thing.
Yeah.
That's right. They flow by and
Never,
yeah.
but I mean,
Well,
you got that old saying, at least in our world, don't let a disaster go to waste. I mean, I hate to say that, I mean, but it's true. That's about the only time that in in our line of work, really, that somebody with holding the purse strings is going to loosen up.
but
I mean,
that's only if the disaster was truly a disaster.
yeah,
Because if the disaster was actually, hey, we saved the world, and it didn't
yeah,
happen, well, guess
yeah,
what?
You
It wasn't a disaster at that point.
yeah.
And, oh, good job. Here's a pat on the back.
Here's a coin.
Here's a coin. Yes. Yeah, Julio,
It's-
where's your coin?
Yeah.
Well, you're absolutely right. And it comes back like we've seen that I've seen that in the physical security world, where again, the physical side is no different than the cyber. I think physical security now, after so many years, depending on how big your company is, physical security gets a relevant, I'm not going to say significant, but I'm going to say a relevant type of budget to be able to comply with regulation, to be able to comply with regulation, right? Not to make it good or perfect or anything like that, but to comply with the regulation. But the investment needs to be there, and unless you have something really go south, people, because security overall, cyber or physical, is an expense that doesn't generate any profits. That's always a challenge, right? And
Right. Well, I mean, it's a risk. It's a risk avoidance measure, right? And that's the thing. And that's always risk avoidance has always been a strategic initiative or requirement for the different boards and that organizations do. Like, what is our risk? What are we doing to mitigate the risk and everything else? So it's a matter of educating executive leadership. Hey, the risk is pretty substantial, and yes, we understand we are a business. Yes, that's the thing. I think sometimes they forget that yes, we are part of their organization. We understand what the organization does to make money. But in our mind, we're doing this so that the organization can still make money and be resilient. And I think they lose fact that side of that.
I think okay. Here's my kind of perspective on that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I feel like they definitely lose sight. I agree 100%. And I also agree that they need education and awareness and all that. But I think it really goes deeper than that, in my opinion. So based on my experience, I think it really it goes to the culture of the organization. And you can educate all day long, but if you don't have security in general, not just physical, not just cyber, but security in general as a part of the culture, you can educate and try to make aware all day long, but nothing's really going to change. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Spot on, Mike. Spot on. Culture eats training and awareness for breakfast. It really does. I mean, that's why we still have even process safety and safety issues like lockout, tagout, for example. Lockout, tagout, people still falling off ladders. I mean, just the things that we've been talking about for the last 10, 15 years, people are still doing it because it all comes down to culture. They get lackadaisical, they get comfortable, and then before you know it, they're sharing passwords, they're, tying this into cyber. It's just, we've been doing it this way for a long time type scenario. And so go ahead.
Mark,
sorry.
Marker, you said that, and all I thought was, the big clocks that they have at some of the facilities that's 100 days without a safety incident.
Right, 100 days.
How does that look for cyber?
100 seconds.
5 minutes without a cyber
milliseconds.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it just that's the whole thing. I mean, it really, in my mind, that's really where the culture has to change.
Right.
And I hate to say it, and I mean, it's probably going to sound bad, But until certain people that have been in a different type of culture for 30 plus years move out of certain positions, then it's not going to change. Nothing will change because, people get set in their ways. The culture is the hardest thing to change, period.
Yeah.
It's a daily struggle. And you get to a point to where, it's okay, what's the bare minimum we have to do? Because we have to do it. You know what I mean? And that's it. And
It kind of goes back to reporting. What is the minimum thing we have to report?
Exactly.
And let's barely just creep over the line for that.
Exactly.
Let's do the minimum that we possibly can.
Exactly.
And then you got
even then, it's a struggle to get them to do that because, okay, let's be very real here. There are a lot of organizations out there that would quite honestly rather go ahead and pay a fine than to implement a lot of necessary things. And even reporting, because the other piece with reporting is, what about the damage to that organization's reputation if that information gets out?
Yep.
Yeah, but no leaks ever get out. Remember, there's no leaks ever.
Never.
And so
nothing ever leaked by the government, right?
Right?
So
airtight. They have the best cybersecurity. That's why.
Anonymous sources. It's all anonymous sources.
So I think one of the biggest things that's really hitting the maritime, all industries, honestly, is that all these new technologies, they're not being rolled out securely in the engineering and the conceptual phase. And so people are rolling out stuff to the maritime industry, whether it's offshore, onshore, whether it's marine terminals, and then you've got the third party OEM aspect of it that has remote access. I mean, systems that 20 years ago you had to go out to the site, the ship, the vessel, whatever it may be. Now you're able to get into these systems, and we've gotten into this whole thought pattern of, if it's security, we'll just add more appliances or add more software, add more monitoring, and we keep adding on top of the layer, and we're adding more avenues of possible threat vectors into these systems for the sake of security, trying to secure them. And I think we have to be very smart in anything that we roll out. And just like we're smart in security, just because you roll out a new alarm system with cameras at your home doesn't mean you open your doors and roll up your windows and you have this alarm system. You still have to be very aware of how you do your disciplines. So that's some of the things that I've seen. Chris, I know that you've seen that firsthand in your
the thing
years
is, how do
experience.
We fix all that? How do we fix this? I mean, we've listed a ton of problems. How do we get the people to do what they need to do and not be afraid? One of the things I've seen one previous organization, the retail and hospitality sector, and they have their own ISAC, and it was just I was a part of it, and I got to see them, and I tell you what, they're sharing information. I mean, there was just so much information coming across, and at the end of the year, they actually gave an award to the people that shared the most information. And they got it out. They got recognized for being teammates and team players with the overall hospitality and retail industry. Is that something we got to do here? And give them a donut instead of the stick, type of thing, or the carrot. I don't know. But
I prefer donuts over
I'll take it.
I prefer donuts to carrots too. But
I'll take bacon.
It'd be a carrot cake donut.
Mike, we all know you'll take
you're definitely onto something there, though, Chris. I mean, as far as the sharing and collaboration, I think it's key, and we know that it works. I know that it works, and I think it's important. Whether you're giving awards, but I think it's real important, because as far as how do you fix it, you have to start with people. The machines are taking information of what people program them to do.
Well,
and if we're rolling out stuff that's not secure by design, or we're not rolling it out in a secure engineering fashion,
but that being said, Marco, I go back to what I completely agree with what you said. Is to me is baffling that let's put company X that sells a lot of cell phones, and probably we all have one. They release an update, and not even 12 hours later, they're releasing an update to the update that they just released because they realize,
It's the
holy crap,
dog
yeah,
catching its tail.
what happened here? We now we have a problem because we have this vulnerability, and it's okay. At what
Did Nick
point?
just fall off?
Yeah, Nick fell off.
At
That's what he
what
gets for
point?
drinking water.
Probably. Hey,
Whiskey
Whiskey
helps.
so at what point do we hold the developers accountable? Right? If I'm a developer and I'm creating a system for you, and I'm creating an app for you, when do we hold that company accountable for releasing or creating a product that was not secure? And I understand it's a very hard thing to do. It's easy to say. It's very hard to do because you have a lot. I mean, there's plenty of vulnerabilities, right? But we're in this mindset, this millennial mindset,
There he
that
is.
everything
There he
has to
is.
be done
I don't know what
so
happened there.
fast, right? Everybody's
You're right.
competing. Everybody's competing to get the next thing out there so fast that nobody is pumping the brakes because we're more concerned about profit than we are about security. So nobody's pumping the brakes saying, wait. Yeah, this is awesome. But here are all the vulnerabilities.
Hasn't the government tried doing something like, holding organizations accountable now? Wasn't the thing that just came out? It was like, if you don't do something, or is it don't report? I don't remember. What was the thing that just came out? They're going to penalize everybody for
Well,
For
so,
not getting vaccines?
Don't change the topic, Mike.
Don't change the topic. Stay on point. Stay on
I mean,
Sorry, he opened it. I couldn't resist.
Here's a crayon. Stay on topic.
Squirrel.
Yeah.
Squirrel.
No, I mean,
All right, Nick.
there was one agency that came out. There was definitely been some agencies that had reactions to the things that happened in May with the big pipeline, So, but one of the things I thought that was interesting that came out of that not too long ago was another department actually started talking about fines against people that pay ransomware.
Mm-hmm.
And once they find out that you've paid ransomware because now you're possibly funding terrorist activities, right? So, you go back and look at that, so yeah, we're kind of all over the map right now with how we're going to handle the carrot versus the stick or whatever it may be.
Like
but
FTC's got their hands in it. I think,
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if CISA starts handing out tickets soon.
Stop it.
Speeding in the internet zone.
Stop
You're
it.
speeding in the internet zone.
They'll be online tickets only. They won't have any paper
Golly.
tickets. Paperwork Reduction Act will come into play there.
Take Bitcoin.
We'll make it better and we'll email it to you so it goes to your spam.
Yeah.
And then you'll hold us accountable for not making
Disclaimer.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's that's a good thing. And I always when it comes to reporting and when it comes to finding out a problem, you gotta give it to the FAA, right? The FAA, I think, has done a great job rewarding pilots and mechanics that find stuff and they go and they report it and they don't get in trouble for reporting that stuff, right?
I've heard that. And also within the aviation insurance community as well.
Absolutely. So, I mean, and we got to get to that point because otherwise people are not going to want to report. If I'm going to report something and then all of a sudden my regulator is going to come back to me and say, well, you reported this. So therefore now, instead of praising you, I'm going to give you a $35,000 ticket because X, Y, whatever the situation is, because you didn't follow your plan or because you didn't have that in your plan. And, Monday morning quarterbacking, in a timely manner. Right. But, and again, that goes back to what is a timely manner in cybersecurity. Yeah, there's no definition for it. And there's no definition when we talk about MTSA and we talk about maritime. okay, well, how does that fence line look cybersecurity wise in the maritime environment?
Right.
When does the
So
cyber incident stops being an OT problem outside of the port, and when does it become part of the port regulated by MTSA? I mean, that's something that's not there. So how can you hold anybody accountable? That's not very well defined, and I think that's just the nature of it, right? Of where we are in time.
Yeah.
I think eventually there'll be a definition for that, but I don't think we're there yet. Personally, I don't know.
for the maritime, I don't know. I can say this though: the self-reporting part of it, and some of the regulatory that we're seeing in NAVIC 120 and cybersecurity program, and documenting your vulnerabilities and creating a roadmap and things like that were great pre-colonial. But now, after Colonial Pipeline happened, and the security directives came down from TSA on the TSA side. Just here the last couple weeks, now they're saying, okay, we're going to do that for rail, we're going to do that for air, and so when we start looking at transportation, what's the only thing that's kind of left open and next? Maritime, right?
Right.
So the question is that go ahead.
No, sorry. It to me, it's kind of funny. You know, this is one of the oldest industries that there is, if you think about it. You know what I mean? But we're also one of the industries that's the furthest behind for everything.
Well, that's because the maritime
I don't
industry.
disagree.
I mean, the maritime. The answer, my answer for that is the maritime industry moves what 90% of commerce. So we're too busy running operations to worry about all the other little things.
It's just not as visible though either. That's
true.
So like, you know, I grew up in New Mexico, right? I had, you know, the biggest river I knew was the Pecos. If you ever look at the Pecos River, the Rio Grande, there wasn't barges, there wasn't, you know, 36-pack tugs coming down the Rio Grande or the Pecos. So you have no idea until you get into a port or the river environment and you see the commerce that moves. So I think that's the other side of it too, because not only does the public not recognize just the volume of what moves through the maritime industry, is that probably people in the corporate level themselves that don't even think about it, because they may or may not have even come up through that. They just came into the corporate side of it. So yeah, it's that part of it too. Until you see those things like people filling trash cans with gasoline, then it changes everybody's perspective. So
well,
I think,
you know, and that's funny you mentioned that, Nick, is you know, when the whole Colonial Pipeline thing happened, you know, my boys, you know, a high schooler and a middle schooler, and they're all going like, well, why can't they use you know, trucking to move the fuel around that? And you know, that's silly, blah blah blah. There's a lot of trucks around. I said, well, what you don't realize is one barge moves what looks like 35 tanker trucks.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. I love that graphic.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a great graphic.
Yeah.
It has all that broken.
I love
down.
it. And then say, look, you got to realize this pipeline is moving, I don't know, probably like 52 barges a day. I mean, and I'm just throwing a number out there. I haven't done the math, but you know, so you got to realize the capability, you know, and people are thinking, well, why don't they just use trucking? Well, we have other problems with the trucking industry, and you know, the shortage.
The choke's going on
with
the containers, right? You know,
I mean,
not enough chassis to move
There's
containers.
all types of choke points in the whole supply chain side of it.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, and if you think about it, you know, whether you're cyber actors or nation state actors, whatever, they're targeting, they're trying to get as much information to be able to see what is a high consequence event. And for the maritime industry, there's just so many pieces
options to pick from.
Well, I mean, well, here's my thing. I think we might be giving the enemy too much credit, right? It doesn't take.
Assume that they know and they can do what you can do.
You do, but at the same time, when they throw out a ransomware, when they throw out a virus, when they throw out something, they're just throwing a big white net out there just to see what they catch, right? They're not going. They're not going after the snapper.
There's a lot of them that
They're
are
starting to get targeting. There's
They
a lot
are
of targeting
yeah.
lately.
They're going to get smart because they've been doing it now for how many years, right?
Well,
And especially with all these specific attacks that they have done. Obviously, there is and let's take this back. These are not just lone groups out there, somebody sitting in their basement trying to come up with something. Now you're talking about government sponsored, and this is all over the news, just putting that disclaimer out there, right? These are government sponsored groups. So now when you involve a foreign government into doing this thing, the foreign government, it's probably going to be better than any of us at doing a contract or doing an agreement with these groups and say, listen, I want you to target this, that, and the other specifically because this is what we're interested on. Right?
Wait, we're the United States of America. We get along with everybody. So
hey,
no targets on our back.
Right.
Yeah, no targets.
We're the number one nation in the world. So why would anybody want to target us or make us weak?
Nobody.
I think
Nobody.
Yeah, honestly, I think a lot of that also boils down
All
to
my friends.
the lack of consequences. You know what I mean? Like if you think about it, like okay, let's say for example, a foreign government were to physically attack us, right? They send over bombs or send over like people to try to physically attack us. That's an act of war. We are going to retaliate. I mean, there's very little in the way of retaliation or consequence in the cyber world when it comes to that kind of thing. Where you going to impose more sanctions? I mean,
but we can't even
what's the deterrent factor if you can even figure out who it was with any amount of certainty?
And I think that's the point is we don't know how to the attribution. I mean, that's a serious accusation, right?
Oh yeah.
One thing is to have a uniform army try to do an invasion, and you say, "Yep, those are the Russians. This is this country," because we know what their tanks look like, we know what their uniform looks like.
Putin, don't come after me. I didn't say
it. Listen, NSA, we're not saying anything that's not public information. It's like dealing with guerrilla, right, in the jungle out in South America with the drug lords, right? They don't wear uniforms. They're just different groups that are being sponsored by somebody. Nobody knows, all cash or crypto, whatever, and it's hard to track, and we can't really tell. So that's another challenge. But at the end of the day, who's providing the strategy to these groups is no longer random people. It's foreign nations, and they have a goal, and they have intel officers that have goals, and they hire these groups to go after a specific goal. And if they want to get paid, so Marco, I agree with you. They're getting more sophisticated. They're getting more.
They're getting
targeted.
Free information is what they're getting. They're getting ship locations. They're getting destination ports. They're getting. I mean, they know what's coming from what country to where on basically at what time. So, I mean, and this is just open source information.
Yep.
This isn't.
Absolutely.
I mean, so countries are handing this information over easily for the sake of scheduling and for analytics. It's nice to know when a ship is going to be coming to port. That's great. You know how many knots it's doing before it's getting here. I mean, so does the nation state, or so does the cyber actor, knowing that, hey, this is a port that we're going to try to target, or a terminal, or a shipping line. I mean, the information is out there. That whole OPSEC and InfoSec side of things, I think we've provided a lot of great detail that used to be stuff that you'd have to dig for and try to have the inside for it.
So you're saying that private industry or the maritime industry is running this into the same problem that people with their personal lives are having with social media.
There you go.
Everything is so public. Everything is out there. Your address is out there. Your phone number is out there. Your go-abouts are out there. And it's public information because it's easy for my friends to find me. but now you're making it easy for the enemy to find you as
with
well.
with one additional factor, Julio, is that once the enterprise is affected, operations is impacted, maybe not directly, but indirectly, to the point that they cannot continue operations because the enterprise systems, they get their batching, ticketing, scheduling is offline. And that didn't used to be a problem whenever the demarcations were in place. And so people use fax lines, people use, hey, pick up the phone, hey, we need this amount of this, send it this way. All that's been phased out, and so we don't have the secondary and tertiary redundancies that we had even in the maritime side. But even it's just, I don't know, it's just something that we have to realize, is that we have all these failover hot sites and all that, but they're just extensions of the same network that typically gets crippled. So,
right.
Chris, I know that you and I have
Convenience over
talked
security.
about this before.
Yeah, we have, and so I think that's a good way to wrap up the show for the night. We could definitely carry on and keep on going. Maybe that's where we'll pick up at the next show. So, for those that watch this, I hope that you found this useful. Drop a note in LinkedIn if you liked it. If you didn't like it, we want to hear that too, because we love the hate as much as we love the love.
Absolutely.
And so
Help us help you.
Help us.
There you
help
go.
you.
Yeah, there you go, Nick.
That's a government thing, isn't it? So, but drop us a note on LinkedIn and say, hey, this was pretty good, and we'd like to see more. If you got topics that you'd like for us to kind of chew on for an hour, let us know. Hit us up. Again, these are all our own personal opinions. They do not reflect the organizations that we currently work for, or the organizations we worked for in the past or may work for in the future. So on that note, I appreciate all you guys and the time that you all spent with this evening. And we'll try to come up maybe with a drink of the night for the next time, so we can all kind of have a drink together, and we'll all have the same drink other than Dos Equis and 2 different whiskeys and 2 different flavors of water.
There you go.
Can do
All right.
sponsorship.
Hey guys, thanks. I appreciate it. This has been fun. It's been real.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Y'all take
Thank
care.
you,
all right?
everyone out there in YouTube land or
Wherever this is streaming.
Yeah, it was all gonna be there.
Hi, Mom. Yeah.
hi, Mom.
Yeah.
Y'all take care. All right.